about not just Gaza, we're talking about the West Bank, we're talking about Lebanon, we're talking about Syria, we're talking about Iran. Like, how many places do you have to attack? Actually, I just saw an analysis this morning, Sagar, that there's been over 1,000 buildings in Lebanon destroyed, which, you know, Hezbollah didn't have anything to do, and the Lebanese people certainly didn't have anything to do with the October 7th attacks. So from a political perspective, this was in Michigan. This is a place where the Harris campaign, you know, has been trying to improve their standing with groups of voters that have understandably fled them, Arab American and Muslim American voters in particular. But by the way, you know, I don't like when we keep it that narrow, because there are vast swaths of the Democratic base, including young voters, including non-white voters, who are deeply concerned on a moral basis about Kamala Harris's support for this genocidal policy vis-a-vis Gaza. And here you have Bill Clinton in this critical swing state, you know, definitely not the message that they want to be putting out there.
Well, yeah, it's just very much like an old man moment takes to the campaign trail. Certainly, yeah, there's a lot to say, I think, about just in terms of like Biden and Clinton and a lot of the flashbacks
I don't really know why they
to
have
these
Bill
90s
Clinton
politicians
campaigning for them.
I don't know. I mean, look,
To be
he
honest with you.
was a great, I mean, he was very popular. He's one of the most effective politicians of all time.
But he is old now.
He is old. I mean, I think
he has lost many steps.
It was McDonald's. When he stopped eating McDonald's and he went vegan, like whenever he gave that up after his like quintuple bypass or whatever,
yeah,
it was over for him.
I mean, he was causing problems for Hillary back in 2008.
Yes. Yeah, he said something about black voters.
He said like Obama should be getting his coffee and stuff like that, remember?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It was in South Carolina. So it was 2008.
It's been a minute since this man was effective out on the campaign trail, and you're still rolling his old ass out? Like, what are we really doing here, just in terms of strategy?
It is fun.
He is younger than Joe Biden, though.
Yeah, wild. True. Absolutely
he might
wild.
be, is he, I think maybe he's like the same age as Trump?
I think he's 78. Yeah, so he must be the same
right?
age. Yeah,
hold on.
That makes sense.
Let me look. Yeah, 78. They're the same age.
There you go. All right. Crazy.
Incredible. Trump kept eating the McDonald's, and Bill Clinton went away, and you know it was a big mistake.
Yeah,
apparently.
McDonald's actually is a key part of the American presidency.
Yeah, just don't get the quarter pounder right now.
The more unhealthy that you are, the better president that you are, in my opinion. All right, but let's continue with the Israel stuff. There's actually an interesting story I wanted to highlight. Let's put this up there on the screen from the Times of Israel, where Trump apparently, according to them, Israeli sources, told Netanyahu he wants the Gaza war over by the time he enters office. He said, according to Netanyahu, several times, win the war quickly, do whatever you need to do, but basically you need to wrap it up by the time that I take office, because he doesn't want to deal with the political and the geopolitical fallout of that situation. Now, obviously, kind of a difficult prospect, because what it would mean would be ending the Lebanon incursion, I mean, what does even the end of quote unquote war in Gaza even look like? Because that would require a literal withdrawal.
And that is the key piece right there. Ryan and Emily had a very interesting guest on yesterday. I encourage everybody to listen, because what Bibi is hoping is, because I mean, I think it's pretty clear Bibi would like Trump to win. The overwhelming majority of Israelis would like Trump to win. Like, the polling is not even really all that close. And the question isn't, okay, you know, at some point the aggressive level of bombing that we've seen, at some point that ends, and then what comes next? And Bibi, in order to keep his coalition together, effectively needs to resettle Gaza. Like, that's what Ben-Gvir and Smotrich very affirmatively want. That's what other Likud party ministers have been going to these resettlement conferences. And the concern from Bibi is that Kamala may actually, now you can, you know, have they drawn any real hard red lines? No, at this point, no. But may actually make some moves to keep them from resettling Gaza. And if he's not able to do that, then his coalition effectively falls apart. So we know Trump is, he's talked about, you know, waterfront, Kushner talked about Gaza's waterfront property and potential development possibilities. We know that Miriam Adelson, as part of condition for her overwhelming massive support in dollars for Donald Trump, wants to be able also to annex the West Bank. So, you know, I think part of the game here in terms of what Bibi wants out of this political context is, and out of this political contest, is what comes next. Am I allowed to just move forward with resettlement and ethnic cleansing, or is there going to be any sort of opposition whatsoever in the White House to that?
Yeah, I think really what Trump is Trump doesn't care necessarily about that situation, but for him and his people, they just don't want to deal literally with the ongoing war. And so they're like, look, man, you need to speed it up. And by the way, it's beneficial to them because it causes problems for the Democratic candidate. Kamala can't even do an event without getting interrupted by Gaza protesters at this point. Let's go next to JD Vance made some interesting crypto comments where if you read between the lines, the pro-Israel lobby won't be too happy about this one on the Tim Dillon Show. Let's take a listen to that. E2, please.
Obviously, Israel has the right to defend itself, but America's interest is sometimes going to be distinct. Like sometimes we're going to have overlapping interests and sometimes we're going to have distinct interests. And our interest, I think, very much is in not going to war with Iran. We recognize, okay, Israelis, Gulf Arab states don't like Iran. So let the Israelis and the Gulf Arab states provide the counterbalance to Iran. America doesn't have to constantly police every region of the world. We should empower people to police their own regions of the world, right? Yeah. And one, we would save a lot of money. Two, we'd save a lot of focus. But unfortunately, I think Harris, she's got this weird thing where I actually think she kind of likes war. Maybe she feels like a tough guy about it. Yeah. I don't know why it is, but they've actually pursued, even though they say they want to minimize Palestinian civilian casualties, they pursued the pathway that maximizes those casualties. They say that they're pro-Israel. They've pursued the pathway that has prolonged the war as long as possible, which is bad for Israel. And they seem to be sort of sleepwalking us into war with Iran. It's like the dumbest of all possible worlds.
All right. What did you make of that? Well, that's like a crypto. That, by the way, is about as close as you're ever going to get to some like quasi-Israel criticism or whatever in a world where Miriam Adelson's shelling out the big dollars. But
True.
I appreciated it.
True. And, I mean, I think it is clear that the Trump campaign has been much smarter in pursuing a strategy of trying to persuade key demographic groups that they're a place that they can go if they're disgusted.
Right.
Now, I think if we look at Trump's comments, for one thing, they are not in line with...
They're very different.
Yeah, they're not in line with what JD's saying
Less
here.
cogent, shall we put it kindly?
Trump uses Palestinian as a slur. Trump thinks that Israel should strike Iranian nuclear facilities, which, would help to escalate the war in the region. Trump was very hawkish, extremely hawkish vis-a-vis Iran when he was president. So the idea that he had any instinct towards withdrawing from the region is just, especially in terms of conflict with Iran, is just not really true. Actually, JD Vance, one of the things in the vetting document was that he was critical of Trump on his assassination of Qasem Soleimani. JD was right about that, by the way. And so, when you look at the totality of the messaging coming out from the Trump campaign, most of it is very much in line with Miriam Adelson, Rudy Giuliani, Trump himself. The problem is that Biden's holding them back. You don't hear too much of the perspective that's being offered here from JD Vance, where he correctly, by the way, points out that even if you are just narrowly trying to pursue the interests of Israel, this has been damaging. The country economically has suffered greatly. The governing coalition is, constantly on the brink of collapse. You have massive foreign direct investment that is fleeing the country. You have human beings who have left the country. And, contrary to the idea that all of this war making throughout the region is going to make Israelis any safer, it's only put them at more risk because now you still have people who are evacuated from northern Israel who are unable to return, and no end in sight with that either. So, he is correct in that point. I just don't think that is the view of Trump. It's certainly not the view of Trump's donors. And, Trump is happy to sort of let people go out and freelance whatever they think is going to be effective to appeal to that audience in the moment. Doesn't necessarily reflect any sort of a broader shift. But they've been much more intentional about trying to do the Muslim outreach and the Arab American outreach, especially in the state of Michigan, and that shows in the polling numbers.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, we have evidence of that strategy. Can we put E4, please, up on the screen? Here you had a letter from Trump. He said, to the Lebanese American community, during my administration, we had peace in the Middle East. We will have peace again soon. I will fix problems caused by Kamala and stop the suffering and destruction in Lebanon. I want to see the Middle East return to a real peace, a lasting peace, and we will get it done properly so it doesn't repeat itself every 5 or 10 years. So that obviously directed at the Michigan Arab American vote. And it's interesting too, because the Trump campaign is basically like scrolling through ethnic minorities and then releasing letters to it, which, look, maybe it's the correct way. Not the way I would like to see politics, but he had another post where he's like, to all the Coptic Christians out there, I will stand up for you in the Middle East. I will make